Hi, everybody. Welcome to the QB School. I'm JT O'Sullivan. Today, we got one big question. What is a quarterback coach? What do they do? What does it look like at the league level, at the college level, at the high school level? We're going to break it down, talk about all those different layers, talk about some of my favorites, some of the ones that I probably struggled with. This should be a really good one. Hopefully, you all enjoy it. Let's dive into it. Welcome to the QB School. Boom! All right, so the genesis of this thing came from Dat Boy Bubble. Yo, JT, I have a question that I've been wondering about for a while. Does a QB coach really matter for a quarterback that's been in the league for a long time? For example, does the QB coach for Drew Brees affect his play at all? Or would he only coach the backups like Teddy Bridgewater? Is the experience that the QB has trump the things that a quarterback coach can teach at that point? So, Dat Boy, excellent question. I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about the kind of overarching kind of holistic approach of what a quarterback coach is. And so the easiest answer, again, from people who watch this channel know, for me, I'm going to try to make it as kind of understandable as possible at kind of a macro level. And so in essence, it depends, right? It depends on what level you're at. It depends on what the capacity of the starter looks like. And so what I mean by that is the quarterback coach for Brett Favre in his 15th year at the Packers when I was there is going to look a lot different than what a first-time starter rookie would look like, or what a sophomore starting in high school would look like. And so it really depends on blending what the starters, the guy who's playing quarterbacks, expertise, capacity is, experience is, with what the structure of the team looks like. And what I mean by that is, if the head coach is a defensive background guy, former defensive coordinator, never coached the offensive side of the ball, and the offensive coordinator never played quarterback, was an offensive lineman or a tight end or a running back, well, then the quarterback coach is going to have a really pivotal role in the quarterback's kind of life and what it looks like, their mechanics, their everything that they do, their reads, everything. But if you're playing for a head coach that's a former quarterback, that is a former play caller on offense, that is a longtime offense coordinator and quarterback coach, well, then you kind of have some added in layers of additional coaching. So you're going to might be getting coached from the head coach on a daily basis, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback coach. And then the quarterback coach's role is really different. It becomes, in essence, another quarterback or another set of eyes for the quarterback, as opposed to the person who's doing the educating, the teaching every single day. These are the reads. This is what we're expecting from the opponent, all of those things. So it really depends on the structure of the team and the organization to start with. For me, that's probably the most important thing. Then it comes down to what the guy who's playing's capacity is. And what I mean by that is, if there's someone who doesn't need a lot of information, who just likes to go play, spin it, has kind of a core understanding of what they're doing offensively, or is it someone, on the far spectrum, like a Peyton Manning, who's going to ask what if to every single thing, and you're going to have to watch every single individual drill from practice? Is it the full spectrum of someone who's, just going to rely the majority of the time on athleticism, wants to know kind of what to expect from a base understanding, but can kind of get saturated and kind of held down a little bit with too much information, kind of paralysis by analysis? You don't want to do that to a quarterback. You want them to just know. My thing about it was, you go into these meetings and all these people would be writing down all these things like, third down and long, they play, quarters 22% of the time, middle field close, man, 18% of the time. And like, they're writing it down and they hand you these sheets. And I'm like, I'm never going to remember this playing. Like, I need to know everything I want to take from it. I want to be able to retain it and then be able to use it as useful information on the field on a Sunday, even if you're not playing as a backup, as a coach, to be able to help the person playing. And so there really is, in my opinion, there was always kind of too much information on really small sample sizes, because you're only looking at usually an opponent's like last 4 games if we're talking about the NFL level. And so for me, the quarterback coach was always that filter. Like, what is important? What do we really need to know? And so if the quarterback coach, say you're the majority, and I'm just talking my experience, the majority of my coaches, let's say the offensive coordinator is the one calling the plays, the head coach is kind of the head coach, kind of administrative figure, doesn't necessarily call the plays on either side of the ball. Well, now, it's kind of layers of kind of confusion as far as who's telling you what to do. I want to hear it from the coordinator's mouth. I want to know what they're thinking about the reads. I want to know why they're calling the play. I want to know the intent and philosophy of what we're doing, as opposed to, sitting in an install where the offensive coordinator installs to the entire team, and then you go back to a breakout room with your quarterback coach and they go over the reads. Well, I'm like, are we I always felt like there was things lost in translation there. And so it really depends. I mean, that's the thing about it, right? It depends on the organizational structure. What does it look like? And then I think the other thing that depends on it, and I know I've said it a few times, but it's what does the guy who's playing look like? What does he want? What does he need? Really, it's one of those things where I've had a number of times where it's like, the quarterback coach and the guy who's playing are not best friends. In fact, they probably personality-wise don't even align. But do they make that guy playing better? You don't need to be besties, but you have to have a certain level of respect for what that quarterback coach is doing, and are they making you better on a daily basis? Unfortunately, I was in a handful of situations where that probably wasn't the case for one reason or another, whether it was the quarterback coach, quarterback's coach's approach or what they demanded from the quarterback position versus the capacity of the guy who's playing. If there's someone who just doesn't want to or doesn't play at a high level, if they're kind of soaked in on information that's not relevant to playing the position on Sunday, or is it someone who wants that sort of knowledge and wants as much information as possible? A good kind of analogy is when I was playing, I don't know what it is now, but the audio in the headset would turn off at like 18 or 15, whatever it is. Well, some quarterbacks want just the play, like as clean as possible. Just give me the play. Other quarterbacks want, give me the play and you keep talking to me and tell me what you see on the other side. What was the last play? What was the last coverage? Was there personnel running on the field different? Does someone look hurt? Is someone subbed out? Is someone tapped out? What does that look like? Tell me what you're thinking for the read. All of those things, where some quarterbacks are like, do not do that to me. Just tell me the play. All I want to know is the play. I don't want to know what defense they're in. I don't care if they're in sub. I don't care if they're showing pressure. I don't care if we steal their signal and we know what it is. All those things. Like, I just want the play. And so it's about kind of understanding that relationship. And I really just think it's about a professional relationship. Do you respect the quarterback coach's ability to make you a better player? And I think, it depends. And I think the question about a guy who's played for a really long time, I think that they're in a unique position, because oftentimes guys have played NFL quarterback longer than quarterback coaches have coached the position. And some of them have never played quarterback. And I don't think it matters necessarily if you've played quarterback or if you haven't played quarterback, if you played in the league or if you didn't play in the league. I really don't think it matters. I think the only thing that matters is, can you coach and make those players better? And that's any position, but quarterback position is magnified for a few different reasons. But I think it really depends on the guy playing. The guy has to be a pro's pro to be able to realize that, as opposed to being frustrated that someone younger than you that's never played the position is trying to make you better. And so, they're going to tell you, hey, Brett, maybe you need to think about doing this on this read or this on that with your throwing motion. No, but can they give you information to make you play better on Sundays? Yeah, I hope they can. That's one of the things that I always thought Josh McDaniels was great with my limited time in New England. They were all about everything we're doing is going to make us play better on Sunday. And you could see it, and it resonated with the entire team, but it started with him and the relationship with Brady and that kind of, one-on-one relationship. Yeah. Did he play in the NFL? No. But was he able to give Tom information to make him better every single day? Was there communication, on a different level? Yeah, I think it was. And so I unfortunately don't think it's like that on many teams for one reason or another. And again, every organization is different. You got to look at your organization. Who's calling plays? What's the relationship like with the head coach and coordinator? Is the offense coordinator a former quarterback? Is the quarterback coach a former quarterback? Who's coaching them on the sideline? I haven't even talked about the game day thing about it. Like, what does it look like during the week? What does it look like during the game? Are they on the sidelines? Are they in the booth? Is the quarterback on the telephone talking to the quarterback coach, the coordinator? What does it look like? And so every organization has to find out what their template is to be successful. But I don't think there's one way to do it. I really don't. I think the best quarterback coaches, to me, when you're around kind of a high functioning offense, is you're essentially a tutor. I think it's an added bonus if you played, because there's something about standing in the pocket, getting hit, getting blasted, getting up again, knowing what it's like to kind of get your bell rung a little bit and be able to stand back in there and not flinch the next time, that you just can't, you can't communicate through a meeting or through watching film. I think there's a level of idiosyncratic credit that is given to guys who have played it before and done it at a high level. And that's just the reality of it. I don't think you have to do it. I just think it's an added bonus. I also think it's a bonus when a quarterback coach can jump in and throw some routes or throw to the wide receivers and be like, hey, this is how you do it. This is how I want the ball to come out. This is the trajectory of the ball. I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I think it's just being able to say, hey, I know you can do it. This is how you do it. This is how I learned to do it. This is how we want to be able to make this a repeatable action for us to throw the ball. And so that type of thing, I think, helps. But I don't think you have to do it. I think some of the best quarterback coaches are counselors, to be honest with you. They're buffers from, okay, if the head coach is calling plays or the coordinator's calling plays, well, the quarterback doesn't want to go in there every single Monday and complain and be pissed about a certain call, but they can do that to the quarterback coach. And that quarterback coach can then filter that information that gets back to the coordinator and kind of act as that kind of buffer to make sure that they're all moving in the right direction, but not necessarily, being the therapist for the quarterback like a quarterback coach can, as opposed to a coordinator or head coach who's just spread too thin to be able to do that and spend the time you need to do that. The other part about the quarterback coach that I always thought was really important as a backup is it's really important to coach all the quarterbacks, right? It's really hard for a head coach coordinator to be able to coach multiple quarterbacks. They usually spend the majority of their time with the starter, where a quarterback coach can really spend a lot of time developing the guys who aren't playing, the 2, the 3, the practice squad guy. And so that's a really important responsibility, because all of a sudden, one play, and that dude's in there for the franchise. And so that's another part where the quarterback coach really earns their money. And so that development of what that looks like. But, I think a lot of people think, it's just a cush job. And to a certain extent it is. I've been on teams where the head coach is an offensive guy, the coordinator is an offensive guy, former quarterback, the quarterback coach is a former quarterback. They have an offensive consultant who's a former quarterback, and so there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. And so, there's almost too much coaching going on, as opposed to being able to have all those people, whatever the organizational kind of dynamic looks like, to be able to coach all the quarterbacks to make them better. That's the thing that I think the respect thing for quarterback coaches, whether you're a 15-year vet or a rookie or a sophomore in high school, you want your coach to make you better. And that doesn't matter if it's quarterback coach or anything. But I think it's unique to the quarterback coach position, because you're usually coaching 2 or 3 guys. And so you get to spend a lot of individual time together. You get to see that learning kind of take off, but you have to be able to make them better. You can't just come in there and be like, hey, you got to throw it more accurately. Well, how? Why? What does it look like? To help me understand how to do it better, as opposed to being like, we just need a better ball. Can't make that read. Like, yeah, thank you. I got that from the interception, but like, how? What does it look like? What's the intent? What am I not understanding? All of those things while you're kind of communicating with the coordinator. But again, I feel like I'm oversimplifying it to a certain extent. It really depends on what the head coach's vision is. If the head coach wants to coach the quarterbacks, wants to be the play caller, all of those things, I think it impacts kind of the communication style for what that quarterback goes through, what that organization goes through. I know personally, as a high school head coach who calls plays and is the quarterback coach, I would love to have a quarterback coach to be able to spend the technical time to be able to help the quarterback on a daily basis, on a daily kind of individual drill period where, I might not have the time because I've got to go work with a different group to be able to do that, or I have to go do something else on the other side of the field, where it would be great to have a quarterback coach. But at the same time, then you have to train a quarterback coach. Then you have to make sure you're on the same page, because there could be miscommunication, because they're used to teaching this, you're used to teaching this, or you want it read this way and they're telling them to read it this way. And so there is an element that goes into it that it's really hard to get a great quarterback coach, in my opinion. Not impossible by any means, but it's like any other position. It's hard to find someone who's really good at it. Then the other part about it that I think is really important that I want to mention is the quarterback coach position is seen as essentially the pipeline position. So if you want to be a head coach at any level, really, the easiest trajectory, the fast track, is quarterback coach, offense coordinator, head coach. And I think history kind of shows that. I think the league, especially, really all levels of football, do themselves a real disservice when the coaching staff in general doesn't look like a representation of what's on the field. And what I mean by that is most quarterback coaches are white dudes. most offensive coordinators are white dudes. Well, we see that there's a transition going on between more and more black quarterbacks playing at a really high level. And so I think the league is doing themselves a real disservice when they're not intentionally promoting that kind of opportunity for minority coaches. I know that there's minority coaching pathways, whatever, but it's really hard to become a head coach from a DB coach or a special teams coach. The fast track, the reality is that quarterback coaches become offensive coordinators become head coaches. And so I think that there's an opportunity there to really surge the game forward as far as representing what it's supposed to look like, the coaches, the owners looking like the players on the field, being that fair representation of the kind of ethnic, racial background of what's going on, that I think can really help by making the quarterback coaches look a lot more like the quarterbacks that are playing. And so I think that's a great opportunity for football to kind of help lead this kind of change in our society that we're looking for more equality, more equity, all of those things. It's an easy way to intentionally do it. Doesn't mean that's easy, because it's not, but I think it's a way, another pathway to help kind of move that equity, equality conversation forward that we all want to see happen. And football is going to be kind of hopefully leading the charge in that regard. Finally, I just want to reiterate, I think the most important thing for a quarterback coach, and it doesn't matter what level you're at, it doesn't really matter that it's a quarterback coach. This is more just a general comment. I think it's important for a quarterback coach, but the idea that you can make your players, whether the starter, all of them, better every day, every drill, that mindset is really the essence of a quarterback coach. And it can get really complicated because it's probably, I think, the hardest position in sports. Often there's multiple cooks thinking that they can coach the quarterback, but in reality, unless that head coach is a former quarterback or offense coordinator is a former quarterback, the quarterback coach is a former quarterback, it's going to be really hard for them to know what it's like to stand in the pocket and deliver a shot or make a read or understand why something happened. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think you can be, a great head coach, great coordinator, and not have played quarterback. It's not a prerequisite by any means. I just think it's easier because you handle the ball every single play. You're making a decision every single play. That decision-making process is better understood by kind of anecdotal experience. And so being able to say, hey, this is how I did it. Doesn't mean that it's the Bible, doesn't mean it's the only way to do it, but there's one way to do it. This is one way to do it. I think helps you kind of earn that credit of quarterbacks, and has just kind of a certain kind of badge of honor to be able to go in there and say, this is how we did it, and this is how I think you can do it. But I really think the essence of it is can you make the quarterback better? Can you make all the quarterbacks better, and can you do it consistently? And that's what a quarterback coach does, in my opinion, to the hardest position in sports. And I think that's why it's so important. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate the support of the channel. See you next time. P.S. We're going live stream. I was supposed to do it earlier in the video and I forgot. We're going live stream probably next week-ish. Maybe not next week, Thanksgiving, the following week. But I'm excited. I'll keep you all posted, let you know when it's going down. Really excited. Live stream, get your mind right. All right. Thanks so much for the support. See you next time.